Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to take a look at the Christmas preview. Look, it's only 28th of December. It's not that late. It's only a bit late. I was going to do it earlier, but it's Christmas, so I haven't done anything. Done basically nothing for like 4 days. It's been great. But there's new stuff to look at, new shinies to examine, new models that, frankly, have been getting a little bit of controversy. I don't know why I pronounced it wrong the first time, but there you go. I hope you all had a lovely Christmas day, a nice break. I hope you've still, at least some of you, managing to have a bit of holiday time and are not having to work. Yeah, let's just dive into it and see what's what. I suspect at least part of this is going to be slightly contentious, but we'll see how we go. So, Christmas preview: Hedonites, Habits, and Hekatari. Sure. Very special present to all of the Warhammer fans in the world. We're showing a glimpse of some of the incredible models that are coming in 2021. Okay, look, let's just skip past all the blurb and get straight to the shinies, get straight to the goodies, to the plastic crack. That's why we're all here. So first of all, we've already seen this. This is the Palatine. Quite a nice model. Quite a nice Sisters of Battle model. I do like it. But she's going to be in a box, which is Sisters of Battle versus Drukhari, which is a quality combination, and I love the fact that that is a thing. And I'm hoping that this is not going to be too pricey as boxes go. Now, the makeup of this box actually looks kind of fun and not garbage. The Blood of the Phoenix box was not ideal, could have been better. The contents of that felt a little bit like, oh god, we've got so many of these things just sitting on the shelves, we need to stick them in a box and get rid of them. This feels a little, I don't know, this feels a little better to me. So you've got an Immolator and you've got a squad of Sisters of Battle there, along with the new Palatine. You've also got, on the Drukhari side, Ms. Hesperax, as you've quite clearly seen there, but new. We will take a look at her in a second. You've got some Witches and Scourges by the look of things, and is that the Venom? I can't remember. One of the super fast, speedy flying things. In fact, now I'm doubting whether those are even witches. It'll probably tell us in a second. So the guesswork, I would assume, entirely unnecessary. Does it even say? No, it doesn't. It's fine. Whatever. I do like the look of that box. Admittedly, the Sisters of Battle are somewhat outnumbered, you could argue. Well, you would argue that because they are. But they have got an Immolator there. And the Immolator is a quality model. It looks solid. And of course, it's got massive flamer potential right there. So, I don't know. I quite like the contents of this. It looks pretty good. Now, okay. Lelith Hesperax. This has been a thing. This has been a thing in the world of Facebook and Twitter and the like, and indeed subreddits as well. This is kind of an interesting model for me, right? Because this feels like a full-on side grade. I don't think this is worse than the existing model by any means. So current existing model right there. I don't think it's worse. I also don't necessarily think that it's better. I think both of them have got things going for them that kind of make them about even, in my opinion. I will say as well that I think there is a different approach to painting going on with these two models that I think makes the new one not look quite as good as it could. I'm not saying the paint job's bad. That's not fair. The paint job is not bad. The paint job's good. But there are approaches made to this that I feel could have been different, could have been more in line with the way the current one is painted, that might have made a few of the comments I've seen a bit less, well, just a bit less. So, yeah, let's just do a comparison here. So obviously the hair is a lot longer. I actually really like the hair. It's very over the top. It's very Jane Czar in a way, but I do like it. There's a nice motion to it. The pose as well, despite the leaping off the rock thing, which is getting a little bit stale at this point, despite it being leaping off a carved bit of rock, but a bit of rock nonetheless, I do quite like the pose. There is something quite kind of, there's something, again, quite fluid, quite mobile about it. It doesn't look static. Now, they were clever with this one because it looks a bit kind of, it looks like she's posing intentionally as opposed to being mid-motion, but it is a very good pose. The only issue that I have with the pose on this one is that it's always felt it's always felt like the choice of scenery for her to be posing on was not the best. It looks... it kind of... It reminds me of when I pose a model, then realise that actually I should have done the posing on a base, and then I've had to build the scenery underneath it to make the pose work, as opposed to posing around the scenery that I've already put down. I've always got that feeling off this model, but the model itself is still decent. I would say I like the pose of the new one a little bit more. The angles that have been chosen for this, I'm kind of, in a way, I'm almost reserving judgment slightly on this new version, because it makes me... Sanguinius taught me a lesson, right? That model I did not like. When they first revealed Sanguinius, the Forge World Sanguinius, that really, I didn't like it at all. I thought the pose looked terrible. It just looked awkward and clunky, and I just did not feel it at all. This... And that was entirely down, by the way, to the angles of photography. Sanguinius is a really difficult model to photograph because you need context and you need the right angles to make the model look as tall as it is, as graceful as it is. It's not easy to photograph. This absolutely reeks of that to me. Now, on first viewing, she looks a bit squat. So if you look between the two, this version of Lelith looks pretty tall, lithe and tall. Still very muscular, but there's like a slimness to her. This version looks thicker by far. Now, I would suggest that especially the thighs and calves, especially, they are actually thicker. They've got thick thighs save lives energy going on. The thing is, I've seen a few people say that she looks too squat in the chest and the abdomen. I think she does look a little bit too squat, but I think that's down to the angle that they've photographed this from, because the actual armour itself is not that different. She's twisting in a different way, she's standing in a different way. This one you've got more of a static pose, something that is designed to look kind of heroic in a way, even though she's not really heroic, let's face it. But the way that the upper torso is twisted, it's as though she's standing straight and kind of turned to one side. With this version, she looks like she's bunching up to leap off something, which she is. The thing is, I don't think she's actually as squat as she looks in this picture. I think probably, if we got some images at different angles, it would look a bit more reasonable. This is being photographed from straight on. You can change the height of a model, like the perceived height of a model, by either tilting the camera forward or tilting the camera back. You can make them look longer or shorter depending on the angle of the lens to the actual model itself. This looks like it's been photographed straight on, but the model I don't think is directly upright. I think she leans forward a bit. In fact, you can see there from the side, she does lean forward slightly. I think probably she's taller than she looks in the pictures, but the pictures make her look a bit squat. Now, when it comes to the actual, the armour and stuff, I actually prefer the new armour, I'll be honest. This version, it's of a certain age, and let's be honest, no one wants to be having a fight, no one wants to be mid-battle with clothing like that. That is going straight up your arse immediately, and it's going to be massively uncomfortable. I know she's Dark Eldar, I know they're into a bit of that, but come on, that is heavily distracting for the wearer, not for the people being killed by them. It's a bit gratuitous, and I don't think it really adds all that much. To be honest, I do prefer the armour on this one. And also, they've just shifted the revealing bit to the front. If you look at the front of it, look at that cutout, where the belt is. Where she's got the belt, at the top of the legs, I don't even know what you would call the lack of material in, the crotch region. I don't know what the technical name for that style is, but they've just moved, the risque bit to the front instead of the back. That's all they've done. In terms of, the actual, model itself, I don't know, I think they are both good. I think they're both good. I think they both have things that I prefer to the other one. I think as well, the painting style honestly has a big impact on this. Now, the armour on this version, I think, is painted better. The armour on this one's fine. It's okay. It's decent. It's nice. It's better than I could do. This has more depth to it. This, obviously, like, techniques and overall quality has improved to some extent, because there is more in the way of kind of reflective surfaces. There's more emphasis on the shape of the plates. It's not just a simple edge highlight all round. Instead, you've got these nice lines, these nice like kind of glimmers of light off kind of curved surfaces on the plate. That is really nicely done. The armour is a massive improvement. However, I really think the skin on the older one was painted better. The skin on the newer one is paler, and it feels like some of the highlights are a little too deep. For instance, I've seen people say that the extent of the abs on this new one is a bit much, like they're a bit too defined. I can kind of see where that's coming from, but I think part of that is the paint job. She's been made to look more harsh and hard with this paint job. I think if you applied a similar approach to, like, as we can see on the older version, to the newer one, I think a lot of the harshness of the muscle definition and the face would go away. I've seen quite a few people say she just looks massively angry and kind of like just super stark in a way. That's because there's been not really much attempt made at giving her any sort of makeup or the same kind of shadows that she has on her older model. When you look at, especially the lips on the older one, there's been a lot of time and attention placed to give them a kind of glossed effect. You can see that part of them is lighter on one side than the other. Same with the eyes. There's been a distinct effort there to actually put eyeliner in. The cheeks have been done slightly differently, as though there's either a bit of makeup or the shadows are a little bit more pronounced to kind of emphasise the high cheekbones on this version. On the newer one, that's all lacking. The lips are just kind of slightly darker. There isn't anything really going on in the way of eye makeup, or at least not to the same heavy extent. The cheeks have got a little bit of shading, but not in the same way. And the skin tone is almost less healthy. Yeah, I honestly think that a lot of it is down to the armour being painted way better, but the skin doesn't seem to have had as much. I don't know. It's hard to say as much care and attention, because I don't know if that's fair. I'm assuming if you're painting for Games Workshop, you are clearly at the top of your game, and as such, me sitting there going, "Oh well, the skin's not quite right," is a little bit off. But at the same time, when it comes to presenting something that's a reimagining of an old one, it's very easy to look at the old one and compare, and I can't help but look at that version of this model and think that if you'd have taken the same approach to the skin and the face onto the new one, it would look better. It would just look better. Now, it might just be that, actually, the new one is slightly more realistic. Would she even bother putting makeup on? Is there any point having eyeliner and eyeshadow? Would she go for the lip gloss effect? Or would she just be like, no, I'm going to slice your face open? Really, who knows? But when it comes to the presentation of the model, I do feel like this one just has that slight edge when it comes to the skin tone. It's nowhere near as horrendous and horrific and, oh dear God, this is the worst thing I've ever seen, as I've seen some comments make out. I think there is a lot going for it, but for me, it is just, it's a side grade. It has elements that are just as good, if not better, whereas this model has elements that are just as good, if not better. Now, let's get on to some Slaanesh action. Some hardcore Slaanesh action. So we've got Hedonites of Slaanesh. By the way, that cover, hats off to the artist who drew that for throwing in the incredibly and blatantly suggestive pose there on your main lad, holding his long spiky mace right in front of his crotch. I mean, it's not the most subtle imagery or symbolism I've ever seen in my life, but it did make me laugh when I saw it. I was like, that was very clearly on purpose, and they either got away with it because no one noticed, or the entire team went, nice. It's one of the two. It's one of the two. I hope that it's because the entire team went, nice. Very, 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 yeah. Let's move on. So, we have, first up, the Slick Blade Seekers, which, to be honest, sounds like a Blood Bowl team. I mean, it does, doesn't it? Let's be real here. It sounds like a Blood Bowl team. Obviously, it's not. Look at these. Look at them. I love these. I love them. There's nothing. These are in that rare category where there is nothing I don't like. There is nothing I don't like. The warriors on the Seekers are so extravagantly dressed, while at the same time, some of them being borderline undressed at the same time. The shoulders are so pointy. You've got that mixture of silver and gold. The weapons, like the unnecessary like piercing of the weapons. Even the Seekers themselves, like pierced horns and tails, brands in the side of the skin, like kind of anklet and bracelet things around the legs. Why do they need them? They're demon steeds, but they've got them. They've got them. The fact that some of these have got why is it wearing a single stocking? It's a demon, but it's Slaanesh, so you're damn right it's going to have some sort of fanciness going on. I really like them. I really like them. They look super good, and I really like these newer mounts. They look more terrifying. They definitely look more terrifying. The anteater approach is fine for the old ones. I've got a bunch of the old ones, like the demonettes, on their Seekers, and they're fine. They're fine. I do quite like them still, but there's a lot to be said for this kind of more personalised approach to these. The fact that they've got bits of armour over some of the legs, they've got like these weird like leather stocking things going on. The faces are way more threatening because you've got these horrible like teeth and tongue sticking out. Yeah, I really like these. I think they're really well done. Also, the fact that they're all a little bit different as well. So, like, that mount has got like these kind of spiky bits coming out the top and some weirdly shaped horns. That one, the horns are different, no spiky bits, but it's got like a feathered tail, which is really weird. This one, no feathered tail, got a couple of spikes, but no horns. Well, sort of horns. They're like a mix of the last two, but the tail is totally different. Yeah, I think they've done a great job with these. I think they've done a great job. And the thing is, it's not just these. There's also lads with bows riding these as well. And they just look so proud. Look how proud he looks. Ridiculous clothing. Absolutely ridiculous. Like the weird hat, the weird helmet that's just like a big a big pointy thing with a bit of tassel hanging off it. It's so over the top. It's so unnecessary. Some good poses as well. That is a really good pose. I like that. Yeah, I'm really liking the angle they've taken with these. And extending the weird like sexualization stuff onto the actual demon mounts themselves. Like, it's been a while since I've looked at my Seekers, but I'm pretty sure they weren't wearing stockings and they didn't have like bits of armor randomly placed on them or, like piercings. I'm pretty sure. I'm not trying to remember where I put them. I think they're in a box somewhere because I'm not going to get around to them for a while. But I'm pretty sure that was not a thing. In fact, let's check. Let's check right now. Seekers of Slaanesh. And immediately no. None of that. None of it. They're just demon mounts, which is fine. Can't go wrong with some demonic mounts. It's not a complaint, but yeah, God, the sprues make my... Oh, it's so inefficient. Look at the state of it. Look at the state of that sprue. You could easily fit the entire box of these on one sprue. But this is what you had to deal with. This is, like, I can't even, I just, it hurts me on the inside. You look at, like, the Ambot sprue, and you've got so much stuff packed into that. It's unreal how much stuff is packed into that sprue. Look like the bloody Centurions, the Space Marine Centurions. That is packed in to within an inch of its life, and then you've got this kit. It's like, well, lads, we've managed to fit like 10 pieces on this one. What more do you want? Leave us alone. It's Friday. I want to go home. It's just, they've got so much better at this as the years have gone by. Anyway, the original point was, yeah, none of that weird, like, approach to the mounts before. I like those changes a lot. Gives them more personality, makes them more creepy, more sinister, makes them more Slaanesh, frankly. Yeah, solid work, absolutely solid work. So we've also got more Slang gores. So like we've got Slake Slash, member of the Dread Pageant in the Diachasm core set, which is on the way. I may have bought it with some Christmas money. The Slang Gore Fiend Bloods value slaughter at any cost, fighting with a frenzy disregard for their own safety. Sounds good to me. Well, I say good. I don't know if good's necessarily the right word. Again, they're so creepy. The fact that they've been painted with, like, human skin tone. I always feel like Beastmen especially, for some reason, like a darker fur sort of colour has always struck me as being the way to go with those. The fact that these are not that just adds to the bleh kind of factor. Old Mr. Krabs there is looking solid. Yeah, again, I really like them. Very over the top, heavily ornamented. You've got these kind of like chain link mirror sort of chainmail bits, which is a nice touch actually. Adds a bit of personality, as if these things were short on that though. But if that's the thing, it kind of feels like personality overload. Nice bit of corset work on that one there. The most efficient thing to fight in. Yeah, Slang gores, again, seal of approval. You're probably recognising a trend at this point. And finally, we have the Bliss Barb Archers on foot. That's not a good name. I don't like Bliss Barb. That's a weird name. They are accompanied by a Bliss Brew Homunculus, who cooks up especially toxic concoctions for the archers to dip their arrows in before firing. I do like that. That's a fun touch. Something that is interesting about these. So, they all basically have the same uniform. Man or woman, male or female, or anything really, they all have the same uniform, which I think is a really, like, it's a cool way to go with it. Everything is equal and even in the eyes of Slaanesh, no matter what you are. Yeah, it's just, again, I think it's super well done. It's extravagant, it's over the top, like unnecessarily ornamented and covered in places that you don't need to be, whilst leaving more vital areas exposed. Like, it makes no sense from like an armor perspective, but that's not what they're there for, so why would they? I also think they've done, there's one thing that I actually would have liked to see them do a little bit more. So what they've done with this model specifically is they've left one side of the chest uncovered, except it is covered because she's got long hair. That's quite that's a decent way to kind of keep implied nudity without showing it. Therefore, you can kind of get away with the kind of more, like, pushing it more towards kind of family-friendly, technically, kind of, which Games Workshop has been doing over the last few years. It's been getting a bit more, stuff like that has been getting a bit less prominent, a bit less prominent when it comes to Slaanesh, especially. This is a good compromise because you know what it is, but it's not overt in showing it. The thing is, when you look at some of the male models, there was one, where was it? There's got like a, so there, that dude is exposed on one side. I actually would have liked to see them approach this guy the same way that they approached this girl. if you keep it consistent, if you keep the cover-ups the same, if you keep them consistent and keep them with the implication as opposed to the kind of overt, it makes everything that little bit more blurry. It makes it a bit more grey. It makes it a bit less cut and dry, where it's like, well, okay, she's covered because she's a woman and they're not showing that. Whereas he isn't covered because he's a bloke, so it's fine. Having some sort of cover for both adds that extra element of kind of androgynous kind of thing, where you're not really sure who is covered why. Why is that person covered if they're it just adds that element of uncertainty, which I think would work a bit better. But outside of that, there's some decent approaches to this. Yeah, same with this guy. If you'd applied the same rules to literally every single model, you can kind of keep people guessing, I guess. Make it that much more unclear, that much more uncertain. All you know is they are all barely dressed. They are all covered in gems and jewels and extravagant cloths and tassels. Even the weapons, even the bows are, over the top for what they need to be. Have all of them have that kind of hint of uncertainty. I think it would just elevate it that little bit more. But overall, I really like the direction they've gone. And I do like the fact that the armour is consistent throughout all of them. Male or female, they all get the same gear pretty much. And it's massively revealing because, of course, it is. It would be nice in the future to see them kind of approach things, tackle things a little bit outside of just that covered, barely covered, not covered approach that they've taken with those models. I do really like them, but some of the circles of Slaanesh are things like avarice and gluttony, and it would be nice to see them tackle that. Whilst I understand the appeal of everyone being kind of lithe and muscular and covered, but covered in the wrong places, there's also something to be said for expanding that out and making Slaanesh more interesting by introducing the more abstract concepts. You could, if you wanted to, express, an excess of greed by having someone who has, the most insanely fancy armour, shield literally covered in coins or gems or, gem-encrusted pauldrons and shields and braces and all of that stuff. You could kind of expand out. You could have, a full-on lockdown fat lad, and it would look kind of out of place, but at the same time it would be still in keeping with what Slaanesh is. I'd quite like to see them tackle that at some point. I know Maka from the Outer Circle is doing something with that, which actually looks really decent. But it'd be interesting to see Games Workshop kind of take those ideas and run with them a bit as well. That being said, I really do like the Hedonites of Slaanesh stuff, and yeah, I like the new Lelith, but about as much as the old one. Pretty much a 50-50 split for me. Question is, what did you think of all of that? Did you watch it on the day, or did you just catch up later on? Is this the first you've seen of it? Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts and feelings, so to speak. And feel free to click all the things. Patreon, video subscribe, all that stuff. Click it if you like, don't click if you don't want to. And as always, there is an affiliate link for Element Games in the description, which you can use to support the channel if you would like. I leave it in your capable hands. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.